Good afternoon. Dear listeners, welcome to Šiaulių bankas Investor Conference. I'm Emilia from Nasdaq Vilnius and I will be moderating today's event. We will start with a presentation from the management, which will be followed by the Q&A session. As always, I encourage every one of you to ask questions during and after the webinar in the question box of your screen. With that said, I'm pleased to introduce today's presenters. Chief Executive Officer Vytautas Sinius and Chief Financial Officer Donatas Savickas. Gentlemen, please, the floor is yours and good luck.
Dear ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your precious time attending our Šiaulių bankas seminar on our results. Truly unprecedented times, and as we expected, the vanishing pandemic heat unfortunately has been replaced by even more devastating aggression in Ukraine, and it's of course hard to talk about finance, about investments, while in Ukraine now people are under attack. Therefore, I would like to express our strong support for Ukrainian people in their fight for freedom, and we try also as organization to support and through the Red Cross Ukrainian people in this difficult hour. Slava Ukraini. Let's move to our presentation, and just to mention that it's based on a fourth quarter of 2021 and also overall on the last year performance. And we will try to give some reflections as well on ongoing situations, since it's developing rather fast in geopolitical context. So talking about macroeconomic situation update, looking retrospectively, I would say rather successful development of Lithuania even during the pandemic period. So we had rather successful year in 2019, as well very minimal decline in 2020, and strong growth in 2021 in the range of 5.1% in the whole year, and the fourth quarter was also strong, 4.8%. Some concerns related to inflation, since stimulus was strong for all countries in European Union as well for Lithuania. We have increase in inflation due to the number of reasons, the stimulus, the energy costs, as well the labor cost growth. As you can see, the 15% growth year on year. So all those things impacted the growth of inflation. Of course, it's again hard to predict how it will develop, but January and February is still showing the level of 12 or similar to that figures. But on the longer run, we expect that inflation should go down, and as expected in 2022, I would be in the range of 6%. Talking about the current environment, just want to mention that Lithuanian dependence on countries such as Russia, Belarus, or Ukraine is rather minor. We have strong ties with Western Europe, with other countries worldwide, and our dependence on those neighbors is truly minor. Therefore, it's hard to predict what impact would be out of this conflict and war in Ukraine. But from a macroeconomic perspective, it doesn't show direct impact to Lithuania as of now. For Šiaulių bankas, I would say as well, we are very limited in relations with those countries. We closed or blocked the accounts that we had in Russia, so our risk is close to zero, both from the credit perspective as well as from foreign exchange perspective. The impacts that potentially comes from shutdown of SWIFT for some of the Russian banks as well have no influence to Šiaulių bankas at all. From Šiaulių bankas asset perspective, I would say as well, we have no assets in those countries, neither directly or indirectly. So neither through the securities portfolio and our clients from credit perspective have also rather limited business lines with those countries. Of course, there exist, but there's no critical elements as we observed as of now from the client's perspective too. Yeah, probably we could expect some influence for the number of payments. Of course, that part most likely should go down in relation to those countries. Also, foreign exchange transactions will not be in that scale as it used to be, and a brokerage part. However, on the other hand, the cash transactions has increased in our branches and ATMs. So from that perspective, we are as of now generating some additional income due to provision of those services to our clients. So if we would move to the next slide on the year 2021, truly good year for Šiaulių bankas performance. We have a record result of 55.2 million euros of net profit, with a 28% growth compared to the previous year. So it's both good performance on the continuous business of Šiaulių bankas as well as one-offs, with the double result compared to 2020 on one-offs that were mainly related to exit from NP position and generation of extra profit out of that. We also observe smaller allowances for impairment losses compared to the 2020, and that resulted to good results of the bank group. Also observed strong development of corporate and private clients financing. We have double-digit growth in that business segment. Strong capital base and liquidity of Šiaulių bankas during 2021 and talking about the 2022, the capital and liquidity are strong. Also talking about the last year results on customer satisfaction or customer service. I'm very glad that we have been recognized by independent survey conducted by DAIF Lithuania, that we were recognized as the best service provider in the country, resulting 100% score out of 100. Also, you see the key performance indicators. All of them are above our initial targets. Talking about return on equity, cost of income, capital adequacy ratio, and cost of risk. All of them stood and at the higher rate than were expected at the beginning of the year. Talking about 2022, it's still hard to project what outcome would be of a year. It was easy to make projections at the beginning of the year, and we were expecting to have more or less similar results as were for 2021. However, we need to observe situation, how it will develop, at what kind of adjustments are needed, observing further how the situation will develop in Ukraine. As of now, we don't see major issues for the reason to review our initial projections, but let's see and wait how the situation will develop, and do we need to make some reevaluations of our budgets. Moving forward to slide number 5 on the loan portfolio dynamics. Again, the strong year of growth. Just to remind that 2020 was much weaker due to the strong impact of the COVID. But 21 with continuous growth each quarter, and the fourth quarter was not the exception. So the portfolio increased by 3%, and during the whole year, the growth was 19% compared to 2020. Strong performance on the newly generated loans in the fourth quarter. So it was 317 million euros were generated of new agreements during the fourth quarter. And the whole year of 2021, bank managed to sign more than 1.2 billion worth of new lending contracts, and that's 71% more than in 2020. Mortgage portfolio growth rate is also above the planned one, and the bank becomes more and more visible player in the market, and constituting a rather significant share of new sales in the market. Our specific product that we focused on, the multi-apartment building modernization, is also moving forward. We continue to provide loans from the previous tranches, and closing the modernization fund establishment, and expect that it should start in the second quarter of this year. It takes slightly longer than expected, but as we mentioned some time ago, it's a rather complex structure and many stakeholders. Therefore, it is expected to come live in the second quarter of this year. And meanwhile, we are still using resources from the previous tranches. So overall, I would say the development of loan portfolio was successful in 2021. We grew in all the sectors, in some with a faster pace, in some with a lower. But overall, we expanded our market share, and it grew up to 9% on the all loan portfolio. So if you would move to the corporate financing part, in total, our growth was 11% during the whole year, despite that the fourth quarter was rather flat, I would say. But one of the reasons is that the third quarter was with lower new sales, and we have some lag in time when the new agreements become part of a loan portfolio. But the fourth quarter was again rather successful in new sales generations. It's about 200 million euros has been signed, and yeah, that's starting to reflect in 2022. So yeah, we see the growth in the first month of this year. We've been able to maintain the stable portfolio yields at the level of 3.7%. I would say still rather strong profitability on the corporate financing loans. And also worth mentioning that last year was on a good performance working with the non-performing loans, and we reduced rather substantially NP portfolio, down by 42%. In absolute terms, close to 50 million euros, and that resulted to decline of NP ratio, and as well as we mentioned, with some extra profit that we generated with the exit from NP positions. And we also managed to increase our market share up to 13.9%, measuring at the end of the third quarter, since the data for the market results is some we're not yet having for the full year. Talking about mortgages and consumer financing, again, both segments for private individuals have slightly different growth speed. The mortgages were booming, and we were part of that growth, being able to demonstrate 53% growth during the whole year, and just fourth quarter contributed by 10% growth. So we are now stand at the level close to 500 million euros of mortgage loans, and that's, I would say, quite significant part already of our portfolio. And our market share has increased to 4.4% in the third quarter of 21, and I believe it should go close to 5% shortly. Consumer financing development also from some more flatty quarters started to develop, to show more growth. And in the fourth quarter, we had 4% growth, and during the whole year, 6% increase. With the interest yield also, I would say, on a rather stable level of 10.7%. Yeah, probably let's move on to the daily banking. Daily banking growth was 7% if we measure on the year-on-year perspective, 17.2 million. If we would compare with the fourth quarter of 2020, we had 9% growth. I would say a rather successful development of sale of service plans for the clients, increased by 7% during the year, up to 173,000 clients using service plan. This product is good by constant commission income on a monthly basis for the basic services that client can use in the service plan. And also even more successful development on the credit card sales that increased by 25% and also reached coincidentally the same figure of 173,000 clients. Also worth mentioning about Šiaulių bankas insurance company as SB Draudimas. So our integration with the bank providing insurance-related services continues to grow. We have now 3 business lines integrated with the bank. So one comes from the consumer financing part, so that has a penetration of 50%. So each second consumer loan is with the insurance product attached. The same has been launched in the third quarter of 2021 with the mortgage borrowers, and the current penetration rate is already 15%. And the last business that we line that we have now in the bank related with life insurance is unit-linked services contracts that we are now also generating through our branch network. So this is strong integration in 2021 with our life insurance company. And also an important part of our development, continuous investments into our digital channels. So usage of both internet bank and mobile application is growing constantly. Talking about the fee and commission structure, as you can see in the last year, we had the decline of 3% in the cash operations and strong compensation of that decrease by securities brokerage. And looking from today's perspective, I would say that at least in this period of time, we have come back on the cash operations, and most likely this part could come back with some growth, since, as I mentioned, there was some, at this period of time, cash need has been increased. So with that, I would pass word to Donatas that would cover a few other more slides in our presentation.
Thank you, Vytautas. Good afternoon, dear participants of Šiaulių bankas webinar. Talking about funding and liquidity, I could start with the statement that the structure of funding remains stable in comparison with the structure that was in the end of that quarter. And the deposits are the main source of Šiaulių bankas funding. During the 2021, the portfolio increased by 14%, and in these days, growth of funding or deposits relates with the cost increase of expenses, which is negatively affect bank profitability. So Šiaulių bankas was successful managing this growth, and during the year, loan to deposit ratio increased from 75% to 79%. In structure of deposit portfolio, naturally that in the low interest environment, term deposits are not attractive, and therefore the portfolio decreased by 61 million euros. Meanwhile, demand deposits increased by almost 400 million. The cost of funding steadily decreases, and at the year-end, cost of deposit portfolio was 0.27%, and almost half of that figure is the insurance premium, what we pay for insurance fund. In the 2021, bank used the opportunity created by ECB instrument, TLTRO operations, and we borrowed significant amount from loan from ECB. And due to the fact that we managed to achieve net lending threshold, we get additional incentive in the form of bonus to that affect our profitability, both in the fourth quarter of last year, and also it will affect positively in the first half of 2022. Reacting to the events that happening right now, we provide additional breakdown of deposit portfolio split by country. And as it was not how to say issue anytime, so just illustrate that 96% of all deposits comes from local residents, companies, and private individuals, and only 4% comes from foreign countries, EU and non-EU. And that means that no effect due to that factor. We can move on to the next slide. Talking about capital and risk management. So again, we are safe from the capital perspective and from the liquidity. Both capital adequacy ratio and LCR ratios are with a safe margin above requirements from the regulator and from our own internal limits. And again, we continue to repeat the same statement during all quarterly webinars, that after 2 years of no dividends or very small dividends, we estimate that we are in position to offer more generous dividends for 2021. And we were pretty sure about this statement until last Thursday. But now the situation is so dynamic, so that we will following and probably will be in the position to make final decision just before 9th of March, when we will announce a proposal on dividends that will be suggested for voting for annual shareholder meeting. Talking about other credit risk criteria, you see NPE dynamics steadily during all year. Our NPE ratio went down, and by the end of last year we reached 3.4% of NPE ratio. That was a result of probably, despite the COVID-19 pandemic, but due to the measures that was taken by the governments and all bodies acting in the financial sector. So it was not affected our customers, and this trend probably similar in other market participants as well. Bank were very conservatively evaluated individual exposures, and despite that market trends and our parameters that we put into our estimated credit loss model show no impact, negative or positive, to the cost of risk. We evaluate very conservatively, as I said, certain exposures, and therefore we still made the provisions that correspond to the 0.2% of cost of risk for the last year. And being in that position, we estimate that we have a safe cushion to be able to resist any bad developments if economy will be affected by the recent events. Yeah, probably we can move on. And this is the last slide, and probably it's worth commenting that despite that downward trend in the share price dynamics that we are following these days, in general, we saw bank share price increase during the year, and liquidity beat record every quarter by quarter. So you see that average daily turnover reached €500,000 in 2021, and during the first 2 months of this year, it almost increased by 50% compared to the previous figure. In the end of 2021, all market were announced that about the changes regarding the exposure, that the position of EBRD, the largest shareholder of Šiaulių bankas, they announced that they are going to decrease their share in capital of Šiaulių bankas, and they started to do first steps of it in the end of 2021. Therefore, by the year end, their share decreased to 22%. Talking about target price, it was renewed after announcing results of the third quarter. So probably it's a little bit outdated to comment. And of course, after these events and after announcing of results of Šiaulių bankas, this estimations, and target price will be updated as well. That's it from my side. Short comments on these last few slides, and now we can go to a Q&A session.
Thank you very much for your presentation. Now we will proceed with the questions, but before that, I would like to remind you all that you are very welcome to send in your questions in the question box of your screen, and I will read them out loud. So let's move on, and the first question would be as following. What amount of dividends will be proposed by the management for the year 2021? Thank you.
Right question, and then it's coming to the moment when we need to finalize a proposition. Probably the situation was much more clear, visible before the crisis in Ukraine, and we were considering to be on our dividend policy level for the last period of years when we generated profit but not paid out dividends, as were some limitations. So we're still looking positively to the dividend payments, but as I mentioned, we still have to make this decision on the 8th of March. So I would not speculate now what the level will be approved. So let's see and wait, and very shortly we will have this position from the bank. But yeah, just worth mentioning that each day is important to see how the situation could change in the neighborhood in countries, and that also important information for us before coming closer to the dividend decision day. So let's see and wait until the beginning of in a few days time we will have the decision.
Thank you. What is the management view on the ongoing change of shareholders, and how could it impact bank strategy in the short and long term, please?
I'll take this question as well, Vytautas. Yeah, just also referring to the previous question, just to make the one additional note that we, from the management perspective, also consider the buyback option as also one of the instruments that could be maintained in our possibility to be executed in the future. Therefore, in line with our dividend considerations, we have also the buyback increase option in our thoughts and our propositions. So, as I said, let's see and wait till the 9th of March, and then we'll have both those propositions ready. And answering the next question on the management view on the ongoing change of shareholders, so I would say positive. We have I would say increased number of shareholders after this change, having also EBRD was our long-term shareholder, and in this time it's still a really big value of having such a shareholders on board. And positively, since new shareholders entering our shareholders list, some of them are strengthening position, some are entering as the new ones, and we see as a management them as leading players in the industries, whether it's investment industry or technology or logistics. So all of them could be of value in our mutual discussions on the further development of the bank. So probably on a very short development of a strategy, there's not so much impact, but looking for the longer one, I believe we will have good discussions and ideas in different formats, meeting with the new shareholders as well. But on the short term, I would say that we have strong strategy at Šiaulių bankas, focusing on our key client segments, on our key business lines. And even in this difficult situation in the neighborhood, since we're very focused on Lithuania, it truly depends on how Lithuanian business and private individuals will perform. And if all good with the country, I think Šiaulių bankas will continue growth, basing that on our current strategy.
Thank you. The next question would be, what portion of loan portfolio is directly and indirectly exposed to Russia, Belarus, and Ukraine?
Yeah, I will take that. Thank you. We have ongoing process of reevaluating this exposure, indirect exposure, because talking about direct exposure to these countries, we have zero, because all loans are provided to residents, companies of Lithuania. But of course, some of them have stronger or not so strong relations, or used to have relations with these countries. And therefore, when we evaluate both questioning our region managers that have the direct contact with the customers, and also we made objective analysis by the taking into account the payments that they received or paid to these countries in the last few quarters. So, and then this portfolio, we estimate about the risk, whether it's very significant or average. So estimation is that only 5% of loan portfolio have average or more than average risk to these countries. But when we taking into account what risk we have from that risk to their business, it becomes even smaller, because most of these loans are very well collateralized by the collateral here, real collateral in Lithuania. So in general, we estimate that risk is not significant. Indirect risk is not significant as well. Yeah, that's
Thank you for your answer. We have one more question, which is, could you please elaborate what is the planned growth rate of the loan portfolio, non-performing exposures, and cost of risk in 2022, please?
Well, again, I could say what our plans is or was until war began, and we estimate that estimated that in the current in this environment we are able to show similar growth rate of loan portfolio that we had last year, in the range of 18-19%. But again, this is a strong disclaimer that it was the plans before the war started. About non-performing exposures, again with the same disclaimer, we could say that even despite our NPE ratio decreased during 2021 down to 3.4%, we don't expect any deterioration in that, and we estimated that it could be remain in the similar level, or even slight improvement could be achieved. And the cost of risk, again, very similar to that was in 2021. We'll see whether these projections will be close to truth, or will be need to adjust due to external factors?
Mhm. Thank you very much. Could you please comment on any future share buyback policy, please?
Yes, answer to the question related to the dividend payment. So, yeah, as I mentioned, that we consider both options as available, both dividend payment and share buyback, and even to increase the reserve for share buyback, just to have sufficient amount in the situation when we see that this is a good opportunity to use that, to have this possibility. And the environment is potentially rather favorable, could be this year, to use that. Of course, in line with our dividend decision that, as I mentioned, will come shortly. So those two instruments most likely would go hand in hand, and depending on a dividend payment, we'll see what is the opportunity to use the buyback. But that's, as I mentioned, also in the related to dividend considerations.
Thank you. I would like to take a chance and remind all the attendees that you are very welcome to send in your questions in the question box of your screen. And we have one more question, which is as following. Could you please comment on expected ROE for 2022? Thank you.
Yeah, talking about 2022 ROE, since I've mentioned that our initial projections were close to the level of results of 2021, therefore our estimation for return on equity was also rather in the same range, overall close to 14%. But that's again subject to how the situation will develop in the external areas to Lithuania, and what impact it could have to the country, and also with reflect to Šiaulių bankas. So initial projections show that 2022 is the year for potential to grow portfolio and commission income, and we still see the good start of this year. But that conflict could be the one that would need to make some adjustments. So it's a bit too early to say something more, and we need to observe how the situation will develop. The good thing that the current state of the bank fully shows that we are, providing all the services, and the clients having all the services available, and we are generating results each day. But how it will impact the development of the credit portfolio, or of some commission income, as I mentioned during the presentation, we need a bit more time to reflect and to see how it will end up on our projections for 2022.
Thank you. The audience is asking, could you please give us a feel for the level of cost inflation you see in 2022? Thank you.
Yeah, we have included some costs related to inflation in our budgets, both on a salary side as well as on the other expenses. However, again, it was done a bit in a different environment compared to the latest data that we have for the first month of this year. They are higher than were expected at the very beginning of this year and the end of the last one. So it could have some extra push of the costs upwards. However, again, the situation is changing rapidly, and the inflationary processes could be influenced by the conflict in Ukraine as well. So we have a number of streams that could either strengthen each other or cover each other and minimize the impact. Therefore, again, it's hard to project. Do we need to make some adjustments in our plan, or we can just follow and to run business as it was, before today? But yeah, we will see what is needed to adjust, and when we see the trends that are a bit more long term, we will evaluate that.
Thank you. Dear audience, if you have a question which you would like to ask, please, this is your time, because we have the last question remaining, which is as following. Do you expect the term deposits to decline further? What is the point of these term deposits when you have enough funding from the ECB and demand deposits? Thank you.
I will take that. Trend of term deposit depends on interest rate, and in the last few years, when this interest rate was downwards, so term deposits portfolio decreased, and we already quite a long period of time, for new term deposits we pay close to zero interest rate, and in cost of funding there's still some cost still exists due to the deposits that were placed with the bank quite a long time ago for the long maturity. And term deposits are favorable for the bank liquidity and risk ratio. Therefore, we cannot get rid of them completely. And but this term deposits now, it's not attractive product, but it could change very quickly if this interest rate environment will change. And the latest signal, what we received from the market, from ECB, so that this low interest rate environment could end sooner than it was expected, let's say half a year ago. Therefore, we'll probably try to balance still having term deposits, because it's sticky product, and people it's better to have some term deposits, even more when this price it's very close to zero and does not create any cost effect on our P&L.
So it looks like we covered all of the questions. On behalf of Šiaulių bankas and Nasdaq Vilnius, thank you everyone for being with us today. The recording of the presentation will be available in the Nasdaq Baltic YouTube channel. Dear management, dear attendees, thank you and have a good day, everyone. Goodbye.